Hello, movie lovers. Welcome home. My name is Amy Henserling, and you are listening to Watch This List. This is a very special episode of Amy's Progress, which I have not done for some time now because I've been marathoning director after director. But Seth and I actually chatted about covering Punch Drunk Love together a month ago, Seth?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. And
it was a while ago, and then Seth was not available because he's potting on some other place.
I'm so busy. So many things happening.
Busy.
I have a lot of orders at my plunger business. Selling various plungers. We just got a big order to Las Vegas today, actually.
So we had to schedule it a month out, which I don't normally do.
But for me, you will. Because we're actually friends.
And
or maybe we shouldn't disclose that. Is that unprofessional?
We're only friends by appearance.
Oh my God, you're revealing that to me right now on the podcast.
Seth,
and I am devastated on the podcast. This is real podcast drama.
This is going really well. So, no, Seth, your review of Punch Drunk Love, which I believe is my first PTA that I'm covering, period. And I've almost got like 90 episodes at this point. So that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Your review was so powerful because I think you were feeling it. You know, you were in the feels when you were watching it. And then, so I wanted to cover that with you. But then when I watched Hulk, I felt the same about that review that you did, where it was like you clearly resonated with that on another plane than normal people. And then I just see so many similarities in the two that I was like, we have to do both.
Yes. We kept finding them, and I'm going to try and not make it just a podcast about how Ang Lee's Hulk and Punch Drunk Love are similar somehow, even though that is breaking ground and no one's ever done it before. I don't think anybody's thought of these two movies in the same breath, but yeah, they are both, and that's sweet of you to say about my reviews. You're always very nice about my writing, which is a passion. It's a passion for me.
Passion.
It's a passion.
It's very stream of consciousness, you're writing. Even if, I don't know what mode you're in when you write, but it comes across.
I'm usually at work.
So, really? Is that true?
Uh-huh. At the library.
Yeah, you're always so almost pensive, but there's like an energy to it that's like kind of musical how it goes. It feels like it has a rhythm to it and a crescendo, and then it comes down. And I don't know. It's just great. I don't even care what you're talking about. It just flows so well.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. That's perfect. The description for Punch Drunk Love, which is all about that sort of thing. And yeah, both of the movies that we're talking about had some significance for me in the romantic sphere. Like rather recently, like in the last year or two, Punch Drunk Love I've seen a million times, and I love. It's like one of my favorite movies, like top 5 for me personally, and I always want to watch it with people that I really like, and I got together with a new partner and everything, and I was like, well, I want to watch my favorite romantic movie with this person. And it's also a good, like, a bit of a litmus test of like this is what this guy is really into as far as romantic movies are concerned, which really, yeah, there's no other romantic movie like this. And then Hulk was also like it just kind of coincided. It was kind of random with this like post-breakup mode that I was in, actually, rather like before I met this new partner, was which it is more dour and it is more about like reconstructing oneself and everything. But yeah, I don't know. They're both deep to me in that way of like they're personal. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that when I watched Hulk, I kept thinking of Barry Egan. I kept thinking of like
smashing up the bathroom.
How, yeah, the inner rage, but also the similarities between Bruce and Barry's sort of inner journey, and they're wanting to appear calm and collected and just completely unable to do so. I mean, and you can see in both films that there's external forces that are bringing it out. But in Bruce's case, it's obviously innate as well. He's, it's attributed to, like, although I wonder for Barry if he has any sort of mental disorder of some kind, or if we're just supposed to take him at face value.
Well, there's a lot of, I don't know, talk. And if you watch it with I don't know, like a younger audience member now, I feel like Gen Z watches things in that mode more. They're more prone to pathologizing or, yeah. And there's like a lot of think pieces that if you Google like neurodivergence and Punch Drunk Love, there's like 3 different articles I found, which, you know, in hindsight, yes, it is like a very obvious, like, if you want to look at it that way, like Barry does seem like there's something going on, you know, he's like autism, some kind of spectrum or something. If you're, I think that's a little bit of a limiting read of the movie in some ways, that like you can just simplify him in a certain respect by going that way, that he is just weird because of that. I think I doubt that Paul was actually thinking about that. I was like trying to figure out if there was any sort of actual talk in any of his interviews about the movie, which he is kind of famously, like, seems like he's kind of cagey about this one. He doesn't want to, he's a little tight-lipped about it. But there's no talk of him actually saying like, oh, he has some kind of phobia of this, or, oh, I was basing this off of my cousin who has this sort of like tic or whatever it is. It is more like he's coming up with a strange guy. And he's like, that's really, you know, whatever a doctor might say about this guy, like the overarching thing, he's a strange guy, which, yeah, that all goes with his mode with actors. It seems like he is a lot of what I researched this time around was that's his MO when it comes to especially shooting on the day. And particularly, like, he doesn't want to get into it too much. He wants to let Joaquin Phoenix or Adam Sandler, like, there's words on a page, you're crossing a street, and you do it, you're the actor, and we're not going to sit around and, like, muse a million about the layers that are going on here necessarily. But you and I are about to do that, and it happens, like, without them doing that, and they know that will happen. They don't have to belabor those sort of things, which is interesting.
Yeah, I sort of looked up the same thing because I was also trying to see if anybody connected the Hulk with Punch Drunk Love, which they definitely haven't. And a funny thing, when I first pitched it to you, it was like the word punch is just so funny to connect it, you know, with it too. And then there's even a line where when Barry and Lena are finally sleeping together, and he's like, "I just want to smash your face," and I was like, "Come on!" Like,
I know,
this is it's a combination that was meant to be, and it's to me, it's not just the rage; it's also this idea of like Bruce, in the same way that Barry's is like, you know, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know how other normal people are. Like, I don't know how to express the difference. And then this idea
that's
of
the
like,
big line for me. That's such a big line for me. And I'm sure that, no, it doesn't matter who you are, whatever you're dealing with, like, everyone feels that way, no matter how, like, upwardly mobile or like how healthy we are, or even when we're in a good mode, you know, we are still like, wait, am I doing this right? Am I acting correctly? How do other people do it? We never will know. We're only guessing.
Well, and I think also it's very relatable when he's when he's like, you're a doctor, and he's like, Barry, I'm a dentist. When he is like, I cry a lot and for no reason, and then he just starts crying. It's like, it's kind of funny in the way that it's shot, but it's also like, that is so true. And that happens. Like, I don't know if it's grief or just anxiety or whatnot, but I mean, I think we can all relate to just sometimes you're just sitting there and then you just want to cry, and it's like unprovoked.
I love that resonates. Yeah. Cause that's always one where I'm like, is this too far? Like, that would be like a moment where I would wonder if Paul was like, are we leaving that in? Is that just too over the top that he just starts breaking into crying? But it does feel real in the context of everything. That birthday scene. I've seen this movie so many times, and this is the first viewing where I I actually clocked that he is bringing a little birthday cake to someone's birthday, which is just like, and there's no like announcing that joke, but it is like ridiculous. It's like a ridiculous thing that you would show up to your sister's birthday with a little birthday cake as if there's not going to be like a cake already there. Like, it's like, this is your gift. Like, this is his like gift that he brought for his sister's birthday, and it's just a birthday cake because he's like, sister, party, birthday, cake. That's how his mind. We're getting a glimpse just in that of how his mind works, and he's just erratic because he's so tangled up in chaos in the movie.
And he doesn't like, it's not even big enough to feed half the people that are there. And he
No,
knows
it's
how many
just
people
for
are
her.
there. And then also that they just dismiss him. I mean, I think that maybe is in there because it shows the impact of the sisters on his mental health and psyche and just like his ability to cope. They are just so toxic for him because he's out of control himself.
And seven sisters, adding to the fantastical feeling that I would say both of these stories have. Like, as much as like by comparison, like Hulk is more overtly sci-fi, right? But Punch Drunk Love is this. It's a exaggerated kind of warped reality of some kind that Barry seems to live in. It seems like the world around him, I don't know. Yeah, that's what I like about it. It feels like it's a living cartoon or something. Because it's like seven sisters, and it's like it's done realistically. But once you actually start talking and explaining the plot, like it's absurd. Like he works selling plungers, specialty plungers, and he wears a suit. And he's going to go to Hawaii because he buys all this pudding. And it's just like one thing after another of silliness.
There's a harmonium dropped on the curb randomly, and there's a mattress man. Honestly, if this were like a comic book, it would be great. I think that it has a bit of a comic book quality to it because Mattress Man is like an actual villain in terms of like he's very over the top. And yeah, like the blonde guys, or like the blonde dogs was what you called them when we were texting. And I think there's a lot of like,
because there's the evil gamma radiated dogs that he fights.
The Hulk dogs.
Yes. And Nick Nolte is the mattress man of the Hulk movie with Ang Lee. This is all sounding like a joke, but I'm telling you.
There's even a part, like the one of the things I love about Ang Lee, because I watched a bunch of his movies in a row, and I think he made Hulk after Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which I also just love. I love that he was nominated for Oscars, and then going from winning one to, okay, now I'm going to do like a superhero tragedy, which is what he called it, and made it like deadly serious, and like truly does it justice in my opinion. Would have like, there's a car scene in the movie where Betty first sees Hulk, Bruce turn into the Hulk, and then it's kind of like a King Kong situation where he's saving her and everything. And then there's that car scene in Punch Drunk Love where she gets harmed, and then he gets out and he's enraged and he just busts up the car and beats up the guys. And it's literally the same energy of like that protection instinct, and that love instinct is ignited, and then they just destroy.
Yes, is ignited, and those are both moments where, like, even like obviously Jennifer Connelly's character in the Hulk, like that's when she sees like, whoa, that's this guy who I knew there's like more to this guy than I ever thought. He can become a monster or something. He contains these things, and same with that scene. There is like a weird like look she gives him when she knows, like, which I see in Punch Drunk Love, where Lena looks over after he just like beats the shit out of these guys with this like superhuman strength that he has. And she suddenly like, not only like, whoa, this guy has the ability to do this. It's also like, how did this happen? It's starting to clock that I'm in with somebody that now it's deeper. Now I know that there's something weird going on here. And she doesn't know if there's a conspiracy, what the conspiracy is or what caused this, but she knows that she's like maybe in over her head or something now with this guy.
with that, I also love, this is something I really love about Lena's character, and maybe it's true of Betty if I thought about it, but particularly Lena, I love how she gives Barry like room and space to tell her these things. She doesn't ask. Like, she doesn't say, what the heck are you doing? What are you involved in? She literally, like, when he comes to her door, he says, I called this, phone sex thing. And she's just standing there. And I love that her love for him is so free in that way, where he confesses on his own time. Like, I destroyed the bathroom. She doesn't ask him about that. She doesn't ask him why they left the restaurant. I don't know. There's something about that seems very healthy to me in terms of just relational dynamics.
She strikes me as a person who's ready to be in a relationship, right? She's looking for this. She really wants that person. And in a way, like a lot of what you wind up reading and learning about, which, has been a struggle in my own life, is it is a feeling. Obviously, there's a feeling at the beginning, but after that, there is a choice you make. You're choosing, and it does feel very real that she's choosing Barry. And despite all this, like, wildness around Barry, which we are it's sort of silly and funny for us to watch, that to us, at least at the beginning of the movie, Lena seems like this very normal girl, so normal. And she's somehow like able to, like, we're almost like, get out, like we're worried about her or something. And she's choosing Barry, and she knows that there's going to be weirdness, and it's going to get like odd with anybody you're with. It's going to be difficult with anybody you're with. And she's choosing to like just work it out and work through it and everything. Which doesn't actually, in the end, feel as much of a stretch anymore in this cartoony way that it, like the first time I watched it, right? It is just, it's like a good visual, like exaggerated metaphor for like their eccentricities of the longer you are with someone, they are going to become like very strange to you. And you're going to be choosing a amalgam of confusing information that like could scare you away. And maybe if like you'd be in the right to be scared away, maybe like whether it's like 2 years into a relationship or 10 years into a relationship, you're going to get to that point where the other person you're with is like, so you've lost the thread with them or whatever it is, or because you get to know someone so deeply or whatever.
This is something we talked about in our, I remember in our thread about Sleeping Dogs Live, remember we were talking about like the times to tell people things, how much to tell people, how soon to say information that could make them leave you potentially, or could be deal breakers. Like, and then how much do you share, period, of those things. And Punch Drunk Love makes it so that Barry, as he feels more and more secure with her, like it's not going to scare her off, he'll be like, I did this. I actually lied about this when I told you this. I didn't have any business when I came to Hawaii. It was to see you. There's all these mini confessions that he has, but they're completely on his own time frame. And so I think that she's not just choosing him, actually. I think that she's accepting him.
Yes, it's more than that. It's not blind. And I don't mean that in like blind acceptance. And that's the important distinction that people do. Like they think that someone's being duped or something if they do try and see past someone's like shortcomings and things. And that's not what's going on. Ideally, what you're doing is taking in the information, processing it, and going forth with it, and accepting the person and forgiving the person or whatever it is. And they do have that moment where it is like, I am always a little worried about watching it with somebody because I feel like they could, because I do see this as a like little fairy tale or fable more than how it's not a realistic movie again to me, in that I don't know how much a like critique of the movie as far as like it actually happening in real life is useful, right? Which You could definitely sit down and watch this. And I've heard it from people like that movie just stresses me out. I'm just screaming at the TV like, Lena, get out of the room. Like, especially once it comes down to like he's telling her that he arrived in Hawaii and he lied basically, and he is just following her to Hawaii. Like, it would be very easy for you to be like, stalker, gross, and she doesn't, and also there's that big scene where he is like, but the thing is like she matches his freak, and if you're going to be with someone, you're probably it's gonna get freaky in that way, not in a sexual way even, but I don't know, you are gonna be like, deep down we're all like a whole mess of weird stuff, and you're gonna share. If I'm gonna share mine, you're gonna share yours, and we're gonna find a meeting point where he says like, I look at your face and I want to smash it, and then she's like, I want to take out your eyeballs and I want to suck on them and stuff, and then we're just like, all right,
and then he's like wow, this is great, this is nice,
this is funny.
It actually, you know what, whenever I think about acceptance in this way, I do always think of Eternal Sunshine, because a lot of this is like everything that you just said, of like those moments where you're like, I'm like this and I'm like this, and sometimes I get angry, and like what Clementine says,
all right, well, fucked up girl, all that stuff.
No, but at the end when she's like, I'm gonna get bored of you and blah blah, and he's like, okay. And that's the power of that scene. The power of the scene is not like, I'm enamored with you, I'm infatuated with you, and don't worry, like all of your flaws are okay. What he's saying okay to is discomfort and potential suffering because she's like that. Not okay, like, do you know what I mean? I think that it's a crucial distinction where you're like, you're not accepting things that are... You're not accepting things because you're in love. You're accepting things because you know that they actually won't bother you more than you love them.
Yes. And it is crossing over into this place of, I don't know, where you're kind of off the map and things get rather mysterious. At least for me, I think couples probably, again, I haven't been in a relationship that has lasted like decades or anything, but from the outside looking in, I can only imagine that there is this level. I mean, even in shorter term relationships where like from the outside, it's kind of impossible for outsiders to really understand it. It's only them, like at a certain point. And this is that whole like smash your face with a hammer point is where I think they disappear from us. Like they are like now perfectly intertwined in this way that like it might look kind of weird to us, it might not make sense to us, but it makes sense to them, and like and you kind of get a glimmer of, and it's not necessarily like you're worried or anything, it is just like, go nuts guys, I get it, you're on your own wavelength and I'm not on the wavelength as being not one of the two, right?
Well, it's kind of a gut feeling too, I think that like that's also demonstrating that they have like vibes about each other and an ease that when they first met, she liked him. And when she first saw his picture, and then she made it so that she could meet him, and then she left the car on purpose. And, really honestly, what was I just watching where I felt this? Altered States. Okay. Where like you feel like the woman is orchestrating everything so that it makes it the easiest for the guy to realize, oh, I really want to be with you and I love you. Because that's the same thing in Altered States, where it feels like the woman is the anchor and the guy is out here doing all of these things and kind of freaking out. But then eventually it's like she knew all along. Like I think that Lena knows all along that he's going to be with her and that she wants to be with him. So she's very committed in that sense.
Yeah, which is wild that she has the true vision, because she's I don't know. She knows she's the melody in this song, I guess, or something. Yeah, that's another big part of it, that it's so musical. So, like one of the things that Paul always says about the movie, one of the few things that you can like tickle out of him in an interview about it is like, what is it about? Like, it is a mysterious movie. Like the weird, like, where does this, it feels very at least at first stream of consciousness. But yeah, he always talks about it being like musical, about getting in tune, is the quote he always says. It's about getting in tune. About love, baby, he says. Which I find that's what one of the things I love about this movie is, like, it's the most simplistic, basic. It's about but it starts out so chaotic and strange. It's like you do not recognize it. Every time I start this movie, I kind of, for a second, I'm like, is this really the movie I thought it was? It just starts. There's no music. There's nothing filmic about it. There's nothing romantic about it. It's a world without any of those things. He's just on the phone. Like, the most mundane thing you can think of is being on hold with customer service he's just like in a dark room in a warehouse. And the first word of the movie is, yes, I'm still on hold. He's in holding. He's like waiting, which he's in stasis. He's in this chaotic, and the music is so like music concrete or something. It's like noise music, and it's slowly him finding this melody along with how the music works and everything. And by the end of the movie, they are finally together, and the problem has been solved, which is like the most basic thing of just like, there's a problem and it needs to be solved, and it gets solved. And it's just like such a lovely, lovely way of doing that basic story thread that we all love,
And I think having the harmonium in there and having like the first note that he plays is deliberately not what we're hearing. It's not the right note.
It's the last note.
Yeah.
Of the phrase.
Right. And so when it keeps going on, he's getting closer and closer, but not quite there. But it's literal. It's not, this isn't just like a metaphor. Yeah. It's also that we're literally hearing him. I like it too, because when I first read your review, that was something that you pointed out, that it was about getting in tuned. And I thought of like the word attuned, like getting attuned to somebody, and getting synchronized, so that they're on the same page, even though they're different notes. It's just a beautiful metaphor, really, of that, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I don't know.
And that's good you point that out. Yeah, he's chasing that end result, but he's got to play the whole phrase. If you just play one note, it's dissonant. But if you incorporate it in a phrase, there's context now, there's narrative now, there's a path to walk. It doesn't look like chaos anymore. It's not just one note droning, which is just that's a wonderful thing.
It's also that I don't think he can hear it at the time. And maybe that's the point, is like when you're in stasis, when you're stuck, when you're anxious and not sure what you should be doing, and every idea just sounds like it makes you want to, curl up in bed and sleep forever. It's because you can't hear the music that you want. Like, you can't hear the song. And so when she walks in and it's like, she brings with her that music, she's like, there's a piano in the street. She's literally the introduction to him being able to come back to himself. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so hard to characterize those moments. And we've both had those moments. Everybody has, where there isn't music playing in the world. And because, you are reminded that it's kind of chaotic out here. There isn't a narrative easy thread to follow. It is, and then I am left to be like, maybe things are just cold and dark here, and there is no, like, everything the nihilist said was true. They're like, I just invent these things, and then that there is like meaning and connection and stuff, and then all it takes is oftentimes a person, you communing with another person, or maybe it's music, or maybe it's art, or whatever it is. And that your whole life has like, you have this, you're seeing connections, you're seeing synchronicities, you're seeing like ridiculous amounts of narrative in your life, and you feel like it's a movie again. And that's where you want to be. It's a great place to be.
Well, and that's where when you started writing reviews differently, I was like, Seth's in love. I think I texted Mark and was like, Seth has to be in love, because it actually was noticeably evident in, like you're saying, it's almost like, putting on glasses, like with different lenses, like all of a sudden. And the thing I love about it, in my opinion, is that those things are there anyway.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like putting on the glasses makes things there. It's just that we have a faulty way of seeing and interpreting. They're there whether we notice them or not, which is a really nice thought. You know, it's just up to us to like see.
I love that. How do we talk about the Hulk? I feel like we can go a very long time about either of these movies. So it's very hard to
merge
in a way, because I feel like I would like us to both sort of give our cases maybe for the much maligned and like it's like the bastard child of superhero movies.
Yes. Well, first of all, before we
have to get these two threads in tune. You know?
I was about to say that
we're going to make the Hulk and Adam Sandler kiss.
No, the thing I was going to say was that one thing I do like about the relationship between Betty and Bruce is that, like, whereas Lena and Barry had to kind of find their way into why they got along, Bruce and Betty have like passion in common. Like they have this intellectual stimulation thing going on. Like they respect each other's intelligence and work. They're both invested in the exact same field. So to me, that's like, I don't know. It's almost like it's so clearly meant to be, even though they don't realize it for quite some time.
They have a shared trauma also, which is experienced separately, which is very intelligent from a story writing perspective, I think, and very like equal opportunity, right? In a narrative sense of this movie, that they're both dealing with daddy issues and their own separate daddy issues. They kind of intersect, and they both like have their ends with their daddy issues, which is very different and something you don't see very often, and like which makes it like not a throwaway, like there needs to be a romance in this action movie, right? It's interesting that Bruce has obviously his whole thing with he has an abusive father and a murderous father who experimented on himself, and then all of a sudden his girlfriend's like, hey, I'm pregnant, and then the child is going to have genetic mutations because of the experiments he did on himself, which is the whole thing of like, it's not just that there was gamma radiation when Bruce is older and he's experimenting on it. It was already in him. There's something in him, but it's also, it's like his dad winds up accidentally trying to kill him because he knows he's like a monster, like as a child. And then he accidentally kills his wife on accident. So he's obviously like, he's unraveling this whole thing throughout the whole movie. But similarly, Betty has a more grounded, like, I don't know, less intense. Maybe we can
traumatic.
Yeah. But she is like dealing with her father, the general, who is like sort of the other villain in this movie. Of just, I don't know, he's just like a hard ass, and she can't get through to him and can't like get her, like, I don't know. They obviously have that. And they end, like, to jump to the end, they have their own thread that ends in she doesn't forgive him in the end, which is cool. He says, I'm sorry, and she just says, I know you are. Which, this whole movie is like, it is a superhero tragedy. That's the biggest thing you can say about it, and it's true to the comics in such a big way. In that the Hulk comes from this tradition of the mad scientist turning himself into a monster, which was like real big in like EC horror comics and everything. Which at the heart of it, what made the Hulk was that fact that it was not a superhero story to begin with. It was this like tragedy of like, he can't control himself. He turns into a horrible monster. It was more of like a science fiction story. That he's, but here we can definitely see that implemented, and it doesn't feel pretentious. It feels, from a person who read the comics and stuff, it feels true to what people really seem to gravitate towards with the Marvel imprint in general, which is, it was always famously like, well, Marvel has the human stories, right? They're very interested in that, which, like with Spider-Man, it's all about how it's not just that he's fighting superheroes, he's a teenager and he's really sad that he can't get his relationship to work with his girlfriend, and that's just as important as anything else. Which I think they just really lost sight of in the later Marvel Universe movies. It became more of what people say about DC, which was always like, these are fantasy stories. They're larger than life, bigger, like just wild god stories of the gods or whatever, which, yeah.
I think Ang Lee honestly approached this like primarily as a drama. I think that the fact that that he had powers and that he was green and all of that stuff was sort of secondary to the fact that he felt that this person was very troubled and like had so much emotional inner conflict. And it's not, I really think, I don't see Hulk as a monster at all. I feel like Hulk is like the healthiest way that Bruce can deal with his rage, like barring the fact that he'll deal with it in any other way. Like it needs to come out. So the fact that Hulk forces Bruce to deal with it, like, even though it's in a destructive way, at least it's like not just within him. It's the within him that's killing him, and the repression and suppression and, you know, all that stuff. And
which so begins even before any of the thing happens. Like,
exactly.
Even as a little kid, they have a flashback that he's bottled up. Even if nothing ever happened,
his mother says that
he would be
his
a kid.
Like he's always been bottled up. He doesn't express his emotions. Right. Exactly. So, and then like Nick Nolte his dad has a great line to him where he's like, I know, because when Bruce finds out that he has this power, he's like, well, I'll just isolate it and then I'll destroy it. And he's like, you're not going to destroy a part of yourself. And that's a very interesting idea.
Yes.
That even the things that you think are terrible about you, if given the choice, you probably wouldn't destroy them.
No, because indulging them, he says, like anytime he becomes the Hulk, he talks about how much it feels good.
Exactly.
It
but
feels
then he
really
feels bad
good
about that.
Because he's, you know, it is what feels good when you finally let it out, like, and you say everything you wanted to say that you were keeping in. Because that's like real pain. That's like some really hard pain is when you have something that's inside of you that you're not talking about, or you're not wanting, or you're trying to keep a secret from yourself. You know, that's real psychic pain. And when you can be free of that, it feels like he's like throwing paint at the wall and like screaming, having a primal moment, you know. It's beautiful. Yeah.
It's like what Barry says about that DJ that he likes, where he just says, I love him because he's not a phony. Like that DJ phoniness Justice. Is what just DJ Justice. The phoniness is what really harms us. It's not that. This is something that I think about a lot, actually. I don't know if it's unrelated entirely, but like how pain is actually quite useful. And it's something that we avoid very strongly and that we're very fearful of. But every time that I'm in genuine emotional pain, it's so decluttering. Like pain is so like incisive, and it forces you to deal with things. It makes you like have to practice virtues or not. But I mean, I'm saying like the positive side is that it's actually very crystallizing. So the whole thing of like Barry running from pain is actually far more painful than what it would require to deal with it. And the same is with Bruce. Like, and so that manifests in destroying bathrooms and breaking windows and like just trying to destroy things because you think it's just because you want to be left alone, but it's not that.
Yeah,
it's that you want to be seen.
They have these outbursts, both characters. And yeah, in Punch Drunk Love, he is this, I love that he is this Adam Sandler archetype still. That is you can see a through line in all of the movies leading up to Punch Drunk Love. He's still like the man boy. He's like clearly stunted, and he has these bursts, and like in Billy Madison or whatever, he sees that penguin
and Happy
Gilmore. He takes these certain things to trigger him, and he becomes like has superhuman strength for no reason and all that. That's like such a weird like thread with him. They always needed, like, because he became this funny guy. Like when Adam freaks out, it's really funny. We just have to like find points in the movie to make him freak out. And even Paul Thomas Anderson, this respected, like well-read auteur, it recognizes that and sees it as that is great. That is an awesome thing that he possesses, and he's going to use it. But yeah, it is these outbursts. It is these like what's pent up and very. I think especially Hulk is very like has this like Freudian element, like Jungian to these archetypes. I love that it is in the way that it's on this like surface level like therapy talk, a lot of Hulk.
Yes.
But it's manifests itself in these fantastical, like they become monsters and they fight, right?
Like Titans, I think you said. Yeah.
Yes.
It's yeah. And then on top of which, so there's like this mythological grandiosity to it. But then there's still like all the panels and the Comic Sans and the authentic sort of homage. And like I feel like Ang Lee does the comic book experience cinematically better than any superhero movie I've ever seen. And that's something where I'm like, why doesn't everyone notice how painstaking, like how he maximizes the written visual, totally different medium, and then translates it so effectively, like, and it's so precise, it's done so well. And then is also taking the material very seriously as if Bruce were an actual person. Like what if he were a person first? It's kind of like what Shyamalan does with Unbreakable. Like what if this was a person before it was a person with powers?
It's comparable to Unbreakable and a lot of like postmodern like Watchmen, like
Joker.
All those like looks at a superhero, but it doesn't feel like that's its actual like what he's trying to do. Like he's like, oh, okay, I'm just going to take the Hulk and do something like that I actually want to do with it, or like say something about humanity with it. In like that's why he sets out with it, like which would be a very, I don't know, like I feel like more, I mean, an American director or something, a more like might be more prone to that of like, okay, this is silly kid stuff, but I'm going to have to go out of my way to like explain that this is like
Justice League.
I'm going to use this purely. Snyder. Yeah, I'm going to use this purely as my soapbox in order to talk about what I want to do, and this is just my excuse. But it's not. He's actually taking the story very seriously. That's why it's such a brilliant movie to me. Like I use the word brilliant, I think, because it's doing both of those things, which is this like very intense, like crimes of the father, psychological tragedy, drama going on, all the very serious, but still going to the point of implementing it into the filmmaking, making it like a comic book. Like he's taking the source material. He's just very workmanlike. He's like, this is done in panels, and how do I translate that literally to the screen? He does like these wild, crazy visual effects with panels and stuff, and still needs it to have like a poppy sensibility. That's still there. That never is lost. That's why I think this is such a cool thing and such a good example of what like fantasy and sci-fi do so well. Why we really like those. The best ones are like they have both. They have both things, which is there are monsters in them, but obviously the monsters are stand-ins for like our neuroses, or like, our, in this, it's anger and all that. But there's still like actual monsters in it. And he does turn into a monster, and it is green, and they do have a fight and everything. So it scratches that itch of a audience member of like that primal, like cathartic, like I want to see some stuff. Yeah. Which is cool. And again, I go back to like, I love that before they have the big crazy CGI like fight at the end where the father and him battle, it looks like they're in therapy. It's just like there's white light. It feels like they're in a white room and chairs, and it's the most like boring, bland little thing where they're going back and forth about their fucking issues and like their problems and stuff. And proof that those archetypes are linked to the most mundane everyday, like Zeus and battling his sons, and like the unrest with the gods and all that, like from a Jungian standpoint, is always going to boil down to like, me and my dad don't get along very well, at family get-togethers. It's always going to go. They're intertwined, and it's just as macro as it is micro.
I think it's also one of the lines that I always remember that the father says is, I think Betty says to him, like, do you know what you're doing to Bruce? Or don't you feel bad for what you're doing? And he's like, what have I done to him? I'm trying to surpass the limits in myself. So that's a key thing here. I feel that way in Punch Drunk Love as well with the sisters, where it's like, my attempt to control this person is not about them actually at all. Like, I'm trying to like almost get back my own self-control by controlling everything else. Like, it's not about making Bruce better. It's not about making Barry better. They're out of control themselves, or they're trying to surpass whatever their neuroses or issues are. And then that manifests itself poorly because they're unable to do that themselves. So that just is like such a unique insight, I think, into their dynamic, is like the parent who wants, they want the child to be better, but then they also want to use the child to even exceed their own self or their own idea of self.
Ugh. Yeah, the child being like their creation. Like in this case, it's his invention, literally, in the Hulk.
Literally.
His son
right.
is his invention of betterment. It's his idea of betterment in some ways.
Yes.
But then, therefore, Bruce has to escape that. He has to defeat the father. And the fact that the father is the absorbing man is also a very easy like metaphor. Like, anyone who's ever had someone close in their life who is a negative in their life, you do feel like they are absorbing everything. They are taking up so much space in your life.
Almost like parasitic or vampiric.
Totally. Yeah. And what he has to do eventually is like, because the longer, I forget what the line is, but the longer you hold on, because he's holding on to him, and he sucks away his Hulk energy, right? And the longer he holds, he's like, and then he eventually is just like, I have to give all of this baggage to you. It's yours. This did not, it does not exist without you. So I'm going to give this to you, my trauma and all of this, this shit that you've given me, and I will turn my back on you. Ideally, like I won't continue to give my energy to you.
Right.
I will just give
the line
you,
there.
Yeah.
He's like the more you struggle, the more powerful I am. The more power I have, the more you struggle. So it's like, and I think that's also such a great idea to keep in mind, is like, people feel like they're powerful when they're angry, and that is actually giving it to someone else, right? Because it's allowing someone to like, you're expressing vulnerability more than you think that you're in control. So when he realizes, okay, my true power is like not exhibiting any, that's a very Zen idea, I think, of just take it. Like,
you said it.
Like, yeah. And then he does absorb the power, but he still destroys himself. And it's almost like Bruce doesn't even have to, because the guy's going to do it himself, which is another great thing. That's another great idea. Like, just let people combust.
Yeah.
You don't have to assist.
Yeah, it's like, it feels like stuff your mom would tell you, like about your school bully or something, right? It's just like, well, you leave them over there, and they'll eventually learn the error of their ways. They you can't keep going that way without hitting a wall. You let them hit that wall, right? And you don't need to bother with them and all that. The more you fidget, the worse it gets for you. They have more of a hold on you. And Barry also has this trajectory with the whole, again, go back to the chaos becoming narrative and everything. It does feel like he is so tense. That's his whole thing, regardless
On
again of like
edge.
how you want to pathologize him or whatever it
Right,
is.
right, right.
He is scared of the world. He's very frightened, and it is a scary world. Like, it's chaotic everywhere he goes. It seems like there's cars flipping around and there's all this stuff and everything, and nothing makes sense. And all he just says, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, is his mantra the whole movie, until he does kind of slacken and, like you said, gets a little zen, I think, as much as Lena unlocks him and everything and maybe helps him find the door, but he does finally slacken and goes with the flow rather than fighting against the flow.
I think if you want to think of it in like the step sense, I think it's that his life is completely unmanageable and he has no idea how to sort of bring it all in, organize it, you know, and the more that he interacts with her, the more he's able to do decisive action. And I think that the interesting thing to me about the whole phone sex scam thing is that he actually behaves in a very realistic manner. Like, we would hesitate to be like, why do you need my social? Why do you need this? We would immediately cut up the credit card. He behaves in a way that you're like, this is what a rational person would do. But how did he get in the situation to be so exposed in the first place? And I think that as the movie goes on, when you see him at the end and he's like, say that's that, you're like, this guy has come a very long way. Like,
yes,
this guy was someone who fell for a very obvious trap. And then he's like going in there and he's like, I have a love. What does he say?
I have a love in my life.
I have a love in a live life that
makes me stronger than anything you can possibly
imagine. So it's like, that's the same with Bruce. Like, there's this arc of where they find strength that isn't their actual physical strength,
Yes. That's such a cool thing about the end of Punch Drunk Love, that it is so overt about it. He's so
right.
He is transformed into something else that is full of confidence, and he and again, it's stuff that was already there. He already had like a lot of strength and power behind him, and he just didn't know what to do with it. And he clearly has a lot of love to give. He just didn't know what to do with it and everything. And to the point of, like at the end, he is facing off against his villain, and it's very, I don't know, almost like melodramatic in this way of like finger pointing at the villain. It was like,
yes,
you will never come back here, beast, and
like
you will go back into your cave, and that's that, and the dragon does say that's that, and backs away into the cave, and he goes off into the sunset with the damsel. It's kind of great that it says in a way that simple, that he beats the bad guy. It's like wonderful, and that is like how you set out to make a romantic comedy with Punch Drunk Love, and it's supposed to scratch certain itches. As much as he is this, I don't know, outsider, like more artistic, more literate director, he is still doing that job of like, they beat the villain, they get together in the end. Like, that's what needs to happen. And you need to feel all good and good inside when you walk out, and feel romantic. And he does that in the movie, which again, like, both of these are interesting also in that way that they are taking their medium seriously. They're taking, Ang Lee's taking the comic book very seriously. It's not ironic. He doesn't have to fill it all.
He's also not condescending to it either. He doesn't think that he's better than it or trying to elevate it. He's trying to actually honor it. You feel it's not like somebody who's like, let me take this like stupid thing and make it good. He's like, no, this is good. Let me honor it by making a worthy movie of my respect for this art.
That's one of the things that annoys me so much about so many of the Marvel movies. I know is the most, like, it seems like the most successful thing that people really love is the humor in those ones. It is just undercutting everything. It's just like, there's a very serious moment with Thor and his dad, and we're like, all right, I'm buying it here. There's a god and his dad, and they're talking very seriously. and then all of a sudden they've got to like have some little guy who's made of CG pixels come in and be like, oh, that's a guy who's got a big old axe, huh? And then we're all like, ha ha ha, yeah, I guess it is silly that he has an axe. We this is nerdy stuff. It's like it still has to like cut its own legs out from underneath itself. It's afraid that people will say that it's silly when it just needs to be like, which I think Ang Lee was just prepared. Like, you know, if like you're not ready for a big old giant green man thing, then you signed up for the wrong movie. Why are you here? There's a giant green man on the poster.
Right.
And yeah, like Paul Thomas Anderson is going into romantic comedies, and he's not like romantic comedies fucking suck, so I'm going to go in there and just fucking blow it up, and like it's a lampoon of a romantic comedy. He's just actually seeing probably what he sees in what we would see as very generic romantic comedies that make them work, and he's bringing them out to the forefront. Maybe like it's more garish because he's lifting the car hood up in a way that we're not used to seeing, like all the nuts and bolts and like how it all works. But yeah, I love that about both of them. They're just honest. And then in that way they are unapologetically romantic, like in every sense of the word.
And I think that like one thing that you and I were talking about was that in the end, like what's the most romantic thing is that they feel seen. Like, I love the line when the Hulk, like, he had just destroyed a ton of things, and he comes back, and they can't get him to calm, and so they bring in Betty, and she gets him to calm down, and not in that stupid way with Mark Ruffalo and Scarlett. It's like like the sun is whatever setting, and like this is really, she's reaching him, and then he says, "Thank you for seeing me," and she's like, "Well, you weren't hard to find," and he's like, "Yes, I was," and to me, that equates to like Barry just finally coming to that realization that like, you see me, I didn't feel seen until this moment, and because I feel seen, I feel strong. I don't know. To me, that is like what could be more romantic than that, because it's real.
And yeah, I want you to cut the bullshit, right? Like if you're really trying to get on the level with somebody you love, or your best friend, or whoever it is, or your family, you want to like, let's be real. Like let's cut the bullshit. We don't need to like be cagey or ironic. Like let's be real. How do we really feel? And like, what is this really about? And I love that line that you isolated from Hulk, which is just incredible. And it is like the absolute marker for how we are not in Joss Whedon world anymore, right? This is like, because they would stop at, well, you weren't hard to find, and everybody laughs. It's like, ha ha ha, yeah, that's a good point. He just destroyed San Francisco, man. And then they would stop because it's like, well, we got what we wanted. The audience laughs, and then if anything, like, but then they do the next line, which is like, yes, I was, which, if anything, yeah, they're like, I don't know, is that too, that might lose the audience there. I don't know, like might make the kids groan, but like, it's like, that is pointing to what the movie's actually about, is that these people are trying to be seen by each other. They're trying to get to their cores. I really do think it's a deep movie on a bunch of levels. I really like, I was almost worried about posting on Letterboxd about it. And I want to add a 0.5 star to my rating after seeing your like 4.5 stars.
Oh yeah,
because I was like, there's such a prevalent thing of being a new defender of movies in this sort of way that's just more fun. And it is like, it does feel like a perfect storm of like, this was a maligned version of a Marvel movie or something, but I really mean it. Like I like, outside of the context of it battling against the others of its kind, like just in a vacuum, you know, it's a well-made movie. It's very surprising.
And I think that they felt that way. Like Jennifer Connelly, I read a bunch of stuff, and, you know, Eric Bana was kind of like, this experience wasn't great for him because he felt like it had to be deadly serious on set, and he was just tired of it being so serious. But Jennifer Connelly was like, I signed on to this because I felt like this was a story that was told with reverence, a certain reverence to the material, and she wanted to be a part of it. And I mean, for me too, I felt the same hesitation, which is why I built into my review the voice of whoever would nitpick at me. Like, well, Amy, actually, this is, the
The
Hulk isn't
nerds,
in the
yeah.
MCU. So it's almost like you feel like you get defensive innately just by trying to say, like, all I'm trying to say is this is actually a really good movie and perhaps should be reevaluated. But there is that instinctive, well, actually, whatever, that the one with Ed Norton is better, or that people don't like the panels, or people, and I'm just like, you guys, like, what is?
Well, they're too distracted by everything surrounding it. There's
Right.
too much. Yeah, it's like trying to watch a Star Wars movie without all the stuff around it, right?
Yeah.
Which, yeah, if you can break through that cloud, you will find like there's there's a real like emotional story here that happens to have a giant monster in it. And same with Punch Drunk Love. Yeah, again, like I said, it is like tangled in this mess of plot. If you expounded on it, it sounds like a ridiculous fairy tale of a man with pudding. But if you actually sit with it, it coheres into something very, very human and very loving.
Well, and I will say this too. I think it was I've been marathoning the Harry Potter movies just for fun because they're all on HBO Max right now. And I think in Order of the Phoenix is when Mr. Weasley tells Harry, like, the truth will out. Like, you can only go so long and it will come out. That's something that I think is the message of both. Is like, you can be fearful of the world and anxious and like trying to cope in your own way, but eventually, like, it's going to erupt out of you. So since we all know that, we might as well try to figure out the best way in which to do that, because avoiding it is not really an option. It's not a viable option in the long run.
No. And, even if you're just trying to avoid it, you might walk past a lab with gamma rays that will just bring it out anyway. And now everything's so literal. The metaphor is now literal, and it's a science fiction story now.
Well, or you could just have a genetic mutation that forces you, or the sins of the father thing. We've got all these issues that we didn't create within ourselves, and proclivities and, addictions and all sorts of things. And so, rather than like kill that part of yourself or think that you can, it's kind of shadow side stuff too, where it's like the best thing is acknowledgement and alignment as opposed to rejection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sharing those parts. That Barry is kind of scary, right? He is, and we're privy to it, and in a way that it does feel like a scary movie for a second. In a way that the person that is yelling at the TV, being like, "Run away, Lena," is justified, right? But
yeah,
you hang with it, and they are like, that shadow self is conquered. Ideally, we can beat these things in our lives, and we can be good friends, good mates, whatever it is.
I think we can recognize those things within ourselves and try to understand them and be loving towards them, as opposed to be like, this is not me, I cannot act this way, like repelled by those things. It's more just like embracing and integration, and that being sort of the goal, as opposed to this is me, this isn't me. Well, all of it is. So you might as well just reconcile.
And there's more to both of the the female leads in these movies, to them standing their ground in the face of it and walking into it. Like, that is what we must be for each other. Obviously, like, to a certain point, there's like deal breakers and abuse and things like that, obviously, but we do need to do that. Like, if you're really going to be there for somebody, it's going to get hard, and you're going to have to walk into the storm sometimes and like keep firm and everything, even when it is scary, and not just run at the first sight of like, oh, okay, this Barry guy's weird,
Yeah.
or he said this weird thing, or even when they do, Barry reveals that like, okay, this guy did come to Hawaii just to see me, or this guy turns green and is enormous and he has Nick Nolte as a dad, which that's scary.
I think there's that point, and then also that like that we aspire to be people who are okay even if we don't, like that like you're responsible for your own happiness. And so if it's always like I'm okay, like if I have this person or I don't have this person, I'm okay. That's always such a better starting point than
and they both feel so strong in
to
that.
Make me happy.
Both of them feel so strong in that. You don't feel like they're like, well, I really need a boyfriend.
Exactly.
It's not it. They are like confident that they can hang. They can do this. Maybe he won't be able to, but I'm going to try,
Right. Right. And then if you're coming from a place of being able to give so much more because you're not expecting something from someone that you have to give yourself. So it's like there's this relief that comes from not having that responsibility to your partner.
Man,
I think.
Yeah. I think so too.
Right.
Nick, how about Nick Nolte though?
Right at the end.
Do you also think that's like a really, really good performance?
Oh, yeah, that's another thing. The acting performances in Hulk are awesome. Yeah, Josh Lucas is great. I think Eric's great. Jennifer's great. Sam Elliott is awesome with his mustache and his voice. I think that, it's an amazing cast. And Nick Nolte is great in that sort of warrior affliction role.
I saw this when I was younger in the theater, and it perplexed me as a child, as it would, because it's not really, I don't know, at the end of the day, maybe it does fail little kids. You're going to lose some of the demographics, which Disney could never allow now. But it was, I remember, I had like hazy memories of this performance that Nick Nolte did whenever I would see Nick Nolte in other movies and be like, oh yeah, that like, it must have been a Scorsese movie or like a Tarantino movie where he was just like had weird hair and was being ape shit and having these crazy, amazing outbursts. And like, no, it was Ang Lee's Hulk.
It's great. The role he was born to play. Okay. So Seth, do you have any parting words as we conclude? Do you feel that we have done justice to these two films and their emergence?
I think we've merged them. They're kissing. I think they're in tune, and they're a handsome couple. They're beautiful couple.
Green and blue couple.
Mm-hmm.
Blue suited. Yeah,
be a really cute double date. Those
there
two.
You go.
Yeah, those four.
Yeah, and I do think this is up there for me as far as I don't know if it could beat Magnolia, but I do. This is like top 3 PTA, and I'm glad that we were able to cover it when we were kind of starry-eyed ourselves.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm happy about being starry-eyed and happy you're starry-eyed, and it does why I like Punch Drunk so much, because it actually does feel like it's someone opening their heart to you. It does feel like the person who made this. You don't always feel that way about romantic comedies or romantic movies. This person has been in love. Like you can tell, like Paul has been in love. Maybe it's not about him. It's not like him recounting some story about him and his wife getting together, but it is the feeling that only if you felt it can you express it in art, and he can really do it here.
I agree. I think it's the key is in the airport scene when they're waiting to board the plane, and she's like, "Do you mind if I come home with you?" And he's like, "I thought you were going to already."
Mm-hmm.
And there's that moment of like, yes, like if you've been in that situation where you're just head over heels, you recognize like that there's things that you don't really have to discuss because that's just what's going to happen. Like that's the thing that's going to happen next. And it has that like sugary sweetness to it that feels lived in. You're right. It does. It's a very sweet movie, honestly. And like very sweet movie juxtaposed with all the violence and cursing.
Philip Seymour
Hoffman. Yeah, it was just fantastic.
Shut. Man, there's such a good infomercial that they made in the special features. You ever see that?
Oh, no.
It's like it's filmed on like a mini DV camera, and it's Philip Seymour Hoffman with a guitar, and it's a commercial for his mattress company.
Oh my God.
And it's so funny. It's on YouTube. Everybody's got to look it up.
Oh, it's great. Okay, well, that's a great note to end on. So everyone look that up. Everyone see Punch Drunk Love if you haven't already, which we felt like I really should name for the episode Punch Smash Love. And definitely see Hulk if you take away anything from this conversation.
Yeah, if you saw Ice Storm and thought that the allusions to Marvel superheroes wasn't enough for you,
that's right.
Here is
the
more.
Fantastic Four.
Yeah, Tobey Maguire, who would also
Maguire.
go forth and become Spider-Man.
Yeah, starts out the movie. That's right. I just rewatched that where he's reading about the Fantastic Four and the chaos of family and how they harm one another. So that's also relevant.
Which, yeah, it's just a more muted version of this, right? Is using like fantastical stories and science fiction and paralleling it with real life. It just doesn't actually go full hog in Ice Storm. It doesn't actually bring like, now suddenly I can shoot lasers out of my eyes as a metaphor for whatever, you know?
Yeah.
You should shut me up. I got to stop.
No. I want to end this in the way that you guys begin your for Unwatchables, where I'm going to say my name and then you're going to say, I'm Seth Troyer, and then we're going to end it, okay? Because I love how you guys do that. It's like,
it's cute.
So I'm going to say, I'm Amy Henserling.
I'm Seth Troyer.
See you at the movies.